What's happening? Andy here. I'm joined today by Mark and Damian from ACDI. How are you guys?
Good afternoon, sir. We're doing quite well, other than freezing here in the state of Kentucky with all this snow. I think you guys can keep it up there in New York. We don't need it down here.
We've got plenty here. How about you, Damian? You're down in Little Rock?
I, no, I'm actually in South Florida. I don't like to bring it up because I never get any sympathy. So,
Zero,
Yeah, all
unless it's
right.
hurricane season.
Well,
yeah,
that kind of hurt. Well, with that,
sorry, but I didn't
with,
bring it up.
kind of brings down the whole interview right out of the gate. But I wanted to bring you guys on. We've had a lot of changes in legislation and who's running the country, and you guys have over the last couple of years rolled out a program that the previous administration was known to be very friendly with. And so I wanted to, talk about the impact with your EV charging program, those stations that you guys market to the office equipment reseller community. I wanted to kind of catch up and see what's happening, what's changed, if anything, and what you guys are seeing going down the road. So first, why don't we start with Mark? Tell us a little bit about what you do for ACDI and tell us about the ACDI EV charging program.
Yeah, Andy, thank you very much for the time to talk with you today. I lead our business development team here at ACDI, and that's including all the products that we have in our portfolio. And you mentioned it, ACDI Energy Services is something that we brought on about 3 years ago, announced at ECS, and it's been a fun experience learning a whole new market and bringing it into the dealer channel. You're right; it hasn't been without its challenges. But I think, what we've learned over these last few years and honestly, what we continue to learn every day, it's exciting. The recent news with the new administration, it wasn't, shock to us. We knew this was coming, and actually, a lot of the buzz in the channel had talked about it. It's not something that from the very beginning, this NEVI funding, these billions of dollars that were out there, $5 billion for electric vehicle charging infrastructure, is not something we ever went after. That was just federal dollars available for devices going up and down the corridor. We always said that we think the long term investment and the play in this industry was going to be in the chargers suited for schools, for local businesses and opportunities for employees to be able to charge where they work. We feel like, we still see that if you look at our office, we have multiple chargers out in our parking lot. We know that quite a few of our dealers now have invested in that. I went to took my wife to the dentist here recently, and there was 4 chargers in the parking lot. That's what we see, and that's really where our focus has been. So hey, cut funding, is that going to kill the ACDI energy program? We had multiple dealers call us up and said, "Hey, are you guys getting out now?" And it was, almost the opposite. We're more excited because those players that were in this just to go get that $5 billion to get those quick hits of bringing in that revenue, they're going to be weeded out, right? We from day one we wanted to build a program for the long haul, and we feel like this is going to weed out some of the noise. We have a campaign at ACDI this year called Break Through the Noise, and that's kind of what we feel like this is going to be able to do. Doubling down on the local infrastructure and the local chargers. There's going to be more money and more investment in those, and that's really going to be our sweet spot.
Interesting, very interesting. So we're going to come back to that because I do have some questions about that. Damien, tell us, what do you do for ACDI, and tell us a little bit about your thoughts on some of what Mark just said.
Sure. My history with ACDI goes back not only 3 years with the EV charging division, but we've worked together in the past on other solutions. I came from the EV charging industry prior to ACDI, so I had some history there and experience. And I came on pretty much at the beginning, three years ago, to be the sales director of the division. So I'm in the trenches every single day. To Mark's point, we're talking to people on a daily basis. We've talked to people prior to the administration change. People like Lauren McDonald, he's an expert, right, in the field. We're talking on a regular basis. So we didn't have any concerns. And to Mark's point, our our daily business is more geared toward level 2 chargers, right? We're putting out level 3 chargers, DC fast chargers in the right spots, but we're not focused on NEVI and chasing NEVI projects, right? So our daily business is business as usual.
So just to back up and clarify a little bit. So over the last 4 years, we've had an administration that was very friendly towards, let's just say, green processes, green technologies, and there was a big push and a lot of funding was thrown out there for coast to coast EV charging stations. They wanted to build an infrastructure and network, right? And new administration comes in, very different way of looking at things, and they're cutting, right? So they're cutting, and obviously a lot of that funding is going to go away. So from what I'm hearing from you, um, that funding was going towards a different level, if I understand this, because I am not an expert in EV, but so that's a different level of EV charging stations than you typically would work with on dealers like POA, Donald McCarthy. I know those are a couple that you guys have signed, been working with for the last few years. So if you could just explain, the cutoff. So now that we're going forward, and that noise, as you called it, Mark, is kind of being removed. That funding is going to go away, we all assume, if it hasn't already. What does that do for you guys with the opportunity that now, a lot of these other companies no one ever heard of that have just sort of just invented themselves, and are they going to go away? Are these guys, what does it do for someone who's in it for the long haul versus people who are in it for the quick hits?
Yeah, so Damian, I'll jump in real quick, and then obviously come in as well. Right now there are 72 unique data networks, EV charging networks in the United States. And Andy, you've been in this business long enough in the copier world. There was so many people that have come and gone, in our space, both OEMs and dealers and things. And so we think that this is going to get weeded out. All these players that were coming in and say, "Hey, I want some of this $5 billion. I want this money. Let's figure it out." So what that's shifted though is the market of EV continues to grow. In 2022, we got statistics that show that 6% of all the cars sold in the United States were EV. This year, it's over 10%. So that number continues to increase. And yes, Tesla is still a big part of that, the world's leader. Although I do believe they announced earlier that they're number 2 now, behind Asian manufacturer. So more and more cars coming in. It's a global market, and I think that's why we see the investment is still coming. It's not coming from federal dollars, but it's coming from local energy companies, Duke Energy, Edison Power, all of these other companies like that are investing in the energy infrastructure, are putting money toward EV. Just think about it. How many years has everybody said, let's get Energy Star compliant? Let's cut energy for refrigerators, for all home appliances. This is the first thing that's being introduced back into the electric market that needs more energy. So all of these power companies are really behind it. There's been huge investments in the actual infrastructure to be able to sustain these EV chargers both at home and at local businesses. And so that's not stopping. We continually see that increase at an exponential pace. And so, again, it's not the federal funding. We've not chased that, right? I mean, if you want to think of it as those federal devices, they were estimating $1 million per site, right? We're not chasing $1 million per site. We knew all the complexities that went into it. Our devices we're putting in for a couple grand here and there, $10,000 for multiple devices in a location up and running, putting it on a 5-year service contract. That's what we're looking for. And that's what our dealers are having success with.
Cool. Damian, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's all spot on, obviously. And the only thing I'm sitting here listening to us talking like we're all in the industry. One thing we should point out, and Andy, to your question originally, these chargers from the East Coast to the West Coast on the major highways, that's called the NEVI program, National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, right? And that's where the big money's been thrown. That's where there's specific players in that space chasing those dollars and those projects, right? And that's not our business. So the up and down the street business, the ubiquitous chargers everywhere, not just, off the side of the highway. That's what we're chasing. So that NEVI money doesn't impact us.
Well, at first when the administration changed, I thought, uh-oh, because it's a different thought. I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. Um, but it's just a very different approach, and I thought you guys might be in trouble. And then I started thinking, who's the guy that's running everything right now? And what is his favorite thing in the world? Is Elon Musk, and he owns Tesla, and he doesn't seem too concerned right now. Probably the one who's getting rid of those programs, right? So I think there's probably a bigger picture. I'm not smart enough to see it clearly, but I do think that it's encouraging when the guy who's running that program is the owner of the number one, let's call it the number one U.S. EV company that we have, right? So and people love, I mean, people who have electric cars, they love their electric cars. And more, as you mentioned, that number keeps growing. I don't know if it'll ever replace, combustible engines, but certainly there's a need for these charging stations. I can tell you every year that I go to the airport, there's more of those. Like it started with one, and then I came back and there were two, and then there were four. There's four of them now. And every time I go past them, those four spaces are always full. I mean, always. So, it's only a matter of time till they add more. So somebody's going to put those in. And it's the same, like you mentioned, at offices. We have, I mentioned earlier, we have a school system here. Actually, the whole state is looking at moving towards EV school buses, right? And that's actually got put on hold right now as they're trying to figure some things out. But that's a conversation that's happening, and it's ongoing. And there's a lot of people who really want that, and there's some benefits to it. Um, so this is good clarification. Going forward, where do we go from here? I mean, is it sort of time to sit back and watch? Is it time to just plug ahead? What are you guys advising your dealers to do?
It's a great question, and I would say that what we want to challenge the dealers with is it's full steam ahead for us. No pun intended, right? It's what's going on in the industry. There's more and more bids that are coming out there. That, as you mentioned, schools. So many of these schools that we're helping today have received these buses that didn't have software attached to them, where they had some little dinky charger that really isn't working well. It's like, here you go, here's a bus, go figure it out. There's opportunities for our dealers to go that are probably already working with them with their copiers, is to go in there and put that bus on a managed contract and work with that. So, we early on when we launched this program 3 years ago, we wanted to really keep it small. We have a couple core people that, as you mentioned, the POAs and Donald McCarthy, DME, and all those guys, and All Copy, and all of them that have been there with us from the beginning, and they continue to do well. We kind of opened it up a little bit and said, now let's take an approach where we're accepting dealers that have opportunities, kind of a lead generation. Maybe they're not ready to jump in full force and train their sales staff on selling EV, but one of their local schools or maybe a local municipality, they have a doctor's office that they're serving copiers with, are looking for EV. Bring those opportunities forward to us. We'll help you with those. You don't have to sign on and be a full commitment of ACDI Energy Services, but it does allow them to again offer a new solution to an existing customer, or maybe it's a new customer that they don't have today. And it's going to open up some new opportunities for everyone.
So let's dive in that a little deeper. That's something I wanted to talk to you guys about, because the way the program had worked, at least my understanding was, in the past, you signed up, you took hardware, you took the product, you got trained on it, and then you were kind of on your own, and you guys would help them when they needed help. Uh, it sounds like you've evolved the program to a point where any dealer can call you and say, "Hey, we've got an opportunity, whether they sell this stuff or not," and you'll come in, hold their hand, and then train them on it. Is that what we're looking at? So a dealer doesn't have to be signed up for this. As long as they're an ACDI dealer, they can bring you these opportunities, and you guys will go in together and get this done. Am I understanding that right?
Absolutely. Always, if they're the dealers in our programs, we're going to protect them first. And if they're working those opportunities, then by all means, we're behind them 1,000%. But if there's not someone working that opportunity, and it's there, then we want to support them. We always say, our motto at ACDI is we meet you where you are. And we want to do that with our dealers. No matter what our solutions are, we have to offer. ACDI Energy Services is one of those. So if they have those opportunities, we want to find a way for them to sell that to their customer. And that doesn't mean taking inventory. That doesn't mean any long-term commitments and now saying, hey, I'm all part of the program. It's solving that one customer and that one need. And then we figure out from there, if there's more, how well it worked, and help them see if they want to be part of the program for the future.
So if you're a sales rep,
Let me just add to that
let me
real
ask you
quick.
this, Damian, how would a sales rep do this? Like, so if they've got an opportunity, you're the director of sales of this program, I'm guessing you're the guy, right? So I'm out there banging on doors. They're not redoing their copier printer leases for another year or 2 years, whatever. Look, what do I do? I look around. Who do I talk to? What are just a couple things I should look for? A couple questions maybe I could ask.
The first thing you can do is look in the parking lot. There are plenty of EVs out there. If you go to a business park and you see EVs in the parking lot and there's no chargers, just talking to the companies that are in that business park to see if they even know that their employees drive EVs. So just being observant and looking around and seeing what the environment is, right? To be able to start the conversations. The great thing is EV charging and EVs, it's a really timely topic and people just want to talk about it. So from a salesperson's perspective, we speculated that this would be the way it would go, but opening up doors with this topic, regardless of what you sell at the end of the conversation or interaction, it'll get you in the door because people are interested in hearing about it. So I would say from a salesperson's perspective, it's a really good door opener and topic to be talking about. And it's legit and valid at the end of the day. So
Well, so I'm in there, I'm looking around, I see there's no EV chargers in this parking lot. I see a couple of EV chargers or EV vehicles, right? A couple electric vehicles in the
yeah.
parking lot. I'm a sales rep. Who do I ask for? What is it, the same people? Is it, where do I start this conversation?
Depending on the size of the company, right? As usual, you could be talking to a company that's got a sustainability officer, on the payroll. They would be a great starting spot. In fact, the ultimate starting spot. But in smaller organizations, if you've currently got an in, you can navigate, as all good salespeople do, to the correct person. But facilities directors, CFOs, they're interested in what these things can generate from a passive revenue standpoint, right?
So that's another question I had. I'm glad you brought that up before I let you go. I wanted, is this just you should install them and be nice to the people who work here, or is this you could be making money off of these parking spaces? Which one is it? It sounds like it's the latter.
It depends on what you're trying to do at the end of the day. If you're looking to draw, if you're a coffee shop and you're looking to draw customers, you may not give away the electricity, but you can offer it at a highly discounted rate, right? Compared to what the going rate is in that area. If you're a business like ACDI, we offer free charging to employees, but the general public pays, like anyone else would. So the beauty of the charger in the software is that you can set it up however you want.
And Andy, let me add to that too. This past week, we had our EV software manufacturer in-house talking to us about the industry and where everything's were going. One of the questions that we asked them, because it's coming down from the dealer channel, right, is the dealers want to play part in that annuity that's coming in every charge. And so now we've worked it out to where we get to set a percentage of the value. So the dealers can say, all right, just like their click charges, they're going to get 5% of every deal, 10% of every charge value. And that at the end of the month, that money, that annuity goes back to the dealer, and then the rest of it goes back to the consumer. So it's getting into that model that we've always wanted to be, where there's that reoccurring revenue for the dealer as well. And they sit down and say, hey, with their customer, here's what I'm going to do. And this will be your maintenance charge, not in, we're not going to bill you every month. This money's automatically taken out from everything that's being billed out. So that's a huge win for us and for the industry.
So that's a software fix, and you guys, so now you're able to basically split the earnings for, split the revenue that comes off of the charging. And so there's a way for the dealers to make on. So you put a charger in a good busy area, and it just sits there for 3 years getting used all day long, every day, 7 days a week. That's you put 1,000 of those out there and it starts to add up. I would think that's definitely a good model for our industry. No?
Something pretty familiar, huh? Putting a
It
lot
does
of
sound
copiers
familiar.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
does sound familiar. Well, this has been awesome. I'm going to put your contact information in this. Hopefully, you'll get some calls on this. Thank you guys for clearing this up. It's been good catching up. Probably should have done it a little earlier, but I'm glad we waited until after the new administration's in, because I just had a whole ton of questions. I mentioned I was worried at first for you, but the more I thought about it with Elon in charge of things and him owning Tesla, I just don't see why anyone would have any concern about the EV charging industry, or the EV industry for that matter. Those cars need charging. He's still selling as many as he can build, right? So I just feel like there's going to be funding for this. People will need to get this done, and they want to get this done, So
But Andy, thank you very much, bud, for, as always, for taking the time to sit down with us and getting the word out, right? Everybody loves what's happening, and you make sure we're all staying in the know. So thank you for the time today, and we appreciate you spending the time with us.
Always
Yeah,
great
thanks
catching
so
up.
much, Andy.
Great. Thank you guys. Thanks, Damian. Thanks, Mark. Good seeing you. And thanks for sharing today. We'll talk soon.
Cheers.
Take care.